Hello again, football fans. This is Anthony coming at you with Two Fat Guys Fantasy Football. Uh, Taking a look today at the off-season that the Raiders have had so far. So it's the next of our team breakdowns. As always, let's just jump into what the roster looked like at the end of the season before anything happened. So this was a roster that many expected to do pretty well last year and really kind of underperformed. They brought in Devontae Adams to pair him with his old college quarterback and Derek Carr. Devontae is and kind of will continue to be one of the best receivers in the league. Um, Darren Waller, another superstar target, one of the best receiving tight ends in the league when healthy. And then Hunter Renfrow. Hunter Renfrow is an incredible option on third downs, short to intermediate routes. He's one of the ideal slot receivers in the NFL. Uh, Offensive line, good, not great. Um, Colton Miller was an excellent draft pick a couple years ago, has developed into that franchise left tackle that everybody wants. So he's doing very well, and I think will continue to do so. Um, Josh Jacobs last year played on the last year of his rookie deal, didn't get the fifth year option, and earned every penny of an extension. So um, he was one of the best running backs in the league last year. Um, was just ultra reliable and uh, I expect more of the same. Josh McDaniels really kind of, I think, showed us last year how he intends on using his running backs in his system, and Josh Jacobs proved to be up to the task. So I expect big things from him going forward. On defense, this is really kind of where things fell apart. They brought in Chandler Jones to be that pass rush threat opposite of Max Crosby, and he really, really disappointed. He just didn't have the impact that I think anybody believed that he would have. The rest of the linebacker core is pretty solid. Jayon Brown, Denzel Perryman, kind of the journeyman veteran. Divine Diablo is a guy that is going to continue to improve. He is an incredibly talented middle linebacker, and I think will continue to get better and will be a good quality middle linebacker for them in the years to come. Max Crosby is arguably one of the best pass rushers in the NFL. He has just an innate sense for getting to the quarterback and putting pressure on the quarterback from a variety of positions and in a variety of ways. He's also a great run defender. He sets the edge very well, doesn't over pursue, take bad angles very often at all. He's also one of the least penalized pass rushers in the league, so that's something to be said for that. Their D line, Andrew Billings was outstanding for them last year. He came in and really performed, I think, better than anybody expected him to. Bilal Nichols on the other side, and then the center was not exactly what you wanted it to be, but the nose tackle position was not great, but did well enough. I brought in Jerry Tillery as well. I think he's a guy that will step in and have a bigger role this year than he did last year. He's a nice fit on that and can kind of do some good things. In the safety room, Trayvon Merrick is an up and coming star. He is a guy I really liked in the draft a couple years ago. He's one of those guys that is another one of those young safeties that kind of does everything very well. He's good in coverage. He can play a little man. He can step in and play a little slot corner if you need to. Better in zone. Does a good job on the covering the deep part of the field, but is also great in the box and isn't afraid to tackle. He's just a very good, strong safety, and I think he will continue to get better and better over the next couple of years until he develops into um, a young superstar for them. Jerron Harmon started at free safety for him. Matthias Farley also played a little bit. Um, Again, nothing to write home about. These are guys that are just kind of guys. Their cornerback room also kind of a bunch of guys. Nate Hobbs was okay as kind of their primary boundary corner. He's still very young. He's only going to be coming into his third year, so I do hope that he can take that next step and develop into a good boundary corner for them. They traded for Rock Yassin. They traded away Yannick Ngakwe for Rock Yassin. And he played well for them. He wasn't outstanding, but he didn't play poorly for them. Um, but he didn't play well enough for them to offer him a new deal, so he did enter free agency. The third cornerback spot, Anthony Averett, is a guy who is also still getting better, but he's going to be going into, I believe, his sixth year coming up, and I think at this point he just kind of is what he is. He's good, not great. Some weeks he'll be below average. He'll make some plays for you, but he'll give up quite a few plays as well. So, not a perfect spot there. One bright spot, their second, they're specialists, kickers, punters, two of the best young specialists in the league. So that's a spot that they're not going to have to worry about until it comes time to pay both of them. So um, that's kind of where they were. Again, like they they were a team that a lot of people were expecting more out of last year. They were expected to kind of push the Chiefs, and it never really materialized. They had some good weeks. They had some more bad weeks than good. So that made them make a lot of changes. They traded away their starting quarterback, which we'll see is the kind of the biggest thing. Well, they didn't trade him away. They wanted to trade him away, but they ended up having just to release him. And he ended up. Derek Carr is now a New Orleans Saint, and in his place they brought in handsome Derek Carr. Jimmy Garoppolo is, in my opinion, essentially the same guy. They do a lot of the same types of things very well. Derek Carr, I think, is actually better than Jimmy Garoppolo. So, but for whatever reason, it wasn't working with Derek Carr. They felt like they needed to make the change. So in comes Jimmy Garoppolo. They still have Devontae Adams and Hunter Renfrow at receiver. In free agency, they signed Jacoby Myers. Jacoby Myers was, in most people's opinions, the best wide receiver available in free agency. I do not love this fit. I think he does a lot of the same things well that Hunter Renfrow does well. So I think you have two of the same guy. I'll be interested to see how McDaniels uses these two guys because I'm not sure that I like the fit yet. Maybe it'll prove me wrong. He also brought in DeAndre Carter. This is more of a return specialist than anything, but maybe he gets a shot. Maybe he gets a shot to do something. I don't know. They did trade away Darren Waller to the New York Giants, and in Darren Waller's place, they brought in Austin Hooper and O.J. Howard. O.J. Howard is a move that I've said is I liked it. I didn't love it. I think it's a better football move than it is a fantasy football move. I feel a lot the same way about Austin Hooper. I think these two guys will be fine and they'll do the job that they need to do. But I'm not going to target either one of them in fantasy. I think the one guy in the receiver room you want to target is Devontae Adams, and that's about it for me. I'm not loving anybody else at this point. We still have Josh Jacobs. Josh Jacobs resigned, and he signed the franchise tag, and I expect them to utilize him a lot. I also expect them to get a long-term deal done with him before the start of the season. But he's a guy that I am also targeting in fantasy drafts, in redraft leagues especially. He doesn't have nearly as much tread on his tires as some of the other backs of his caliber, so I think he still has some run there. Offensive line has made exactly no changes, so the offensive line I believe will still be good, but not great. So um, we'll see what happens. Jimmy Garoppolo in San Francisco had the benefit of having a very good offensive line, so we'll see what happens with a downgrade there for him. On defense, this is a spot where some changes have been made a little bit. We let Andrew Billings go. Now Jerry Tillery is stepping into that starting spot. Brought in Jonathan Jenkins to be that nose tackle. This is a huge improvement over what they had before. He is a great anchor piece. He's a guy that will give you exactly what you want out of a nose tackle. He's going to eat up double teams. He's going to stop the run at the point of attack and make the runner uh, move a little bit. So it's going to free the guys up behind him to do some good things. We still have Max Crosby and Chandler Jones rushing the passer as our primary pass rushers. Hopefully, Chandler Jones shows more this year than he did last year. Otherwise, it's going to be all on Crosby again. And you could do worse, but it'd be great to get him some help. We did let Denzel Perryman go in free agency, and so now we've got Divine Diablo leading that middle linebacker spot, and I think he's going to step in and perform very, very well this year. Interesting name here, Robert Spillane, younger guy. He's one of those guys that is kind of very average, but can play above average at times. He's a good locker room guy. He's going to come in. He's going to do well this year, but I don't know if he's going to be great. So, I other than Crosby, I have my questions about the linebacker room. Nate Hobbs is still the leader in the corner room. We did bring in David Long Jr. and Duke Shelley to compete with him. These are both guys that have been kind of journeymen at this point. Shelley's an interesting name. I saw him a lot when he was in his first year with the Bears, and then last year with the Vikings. So he's a guy that can do what you want, but he has some mental lapses and gets beat more often than you'd like to see. So hopefully we can get that corrected. David Long Jr. is another guy that's been around for a few years and still has room to improve. Whether he does or not is the question. So I'm hoping that he does, and I think the Raiders are hoping that he can. So it could be a good room, but as of right now, I'm not putting my hopes in it. I still think that that's a spot that could be addressed to get better in the draft. Trayvon Merrick, mentioned in the previous portion, is a guy that I like a lot. I think he's going to continue to get better and continue to be um, a key piece on that defense. In the free safety spot, we brought in Marcus Epps. Marcus Epps is a guy that has gotten better each and every year, and I think if he can continue that trajectory, can really help out on the back end and be better than what the Raiders had last year. So he's a guy that's above average, slightly in coverage, but he's kind of always in the right places. So he's just not out of position. Doesn't make a ton of plays. He's not a guy that jumps out at you a bunch when you watch him, but he doesn't jump out for the wrong reasons either. So he's a nice addition there. I think he'll help out a lot. So right now, this roster is not in as good a shape as it was coming into the off season. The changes that they've made, some can help, some are not going to be that great. So we downgraded at tight end. I think we downgraded at quarterback. Um, we downgraded in the cornerback room, and I think we slightly downgraded in the linebacker core as well. So we've got a lot of spots that can be addressed, but I'm not sure how they're going to handle that. In the draft, we've got a lot of names. They've got the seventh pick in the draft, and they could go a lot of ways with this. Um, they're a team that I think is also in the quarterback market, um, trading up from 7 to 3 to get to get a guy to eventually replace Jimmy Garoppolo is not a bad idea. If their guy is there, I think that's something that they consider. We've kind of talked in depth about each of these guys, but I think it's in play for them. I'm not sure that's what they're going to do. Kind of depends on how the board falls, but I do think it's absolutely in play. Um, if we sit at 7, I think they are a prime spot to take one of these corners. That's where I think the positional value is going to be for them. Be it Christian Gonzalez, be it Devin Witherspoon. Um, these are the two guys that I think are most in line for them. Um, but they could also go and address their pass rush with the outside linebackers, the rush ends. Nolan Smith is a name that could be very interesting for them. He would be a guy that Al Davis would be really interested in. He's one of those athletic athletic freaks. So let's just take a look at him real quick. He's a guy we've just kind of brushed over a little bit and haven't really talked about. Nolan Smith had one of the best combines of anybody. He showed elite speed for the position while combining that with just his overall testing numbers were kind of off the charts. He moved himself back up a lot of teams' draft boards. So uh, key for him will be if his medicals come back clean enough for teams, but I think it's going to be fine. He's a guy that at 6'2", 238, he's definitely more designed to be that 3-4 outside linebacker, pass rush kind of specialist. But I think he could come in, and honestly, I think he could be better than Chandler Jones right away. Um, if they don't address it in the first round, second round, BJ Ojulari is another guy that could come in and kind of do that same role. BJ Ojulari is one of the younger pass rushers in the class, um, but he's another guy that at his pro day looked really well, tested really well. Kind of the drills. He nailed it. He had a really good pro day. Not a, and I think he's going to do well. A couple of interviews I've seen with him, very he's a very intelligent football player. He's going to bring a lot of football IQ to the team right away, and like I said, be able to help out. Um, for me, I think Devin Witherspoon is the play. Um, he's a cornerback that gives you shut down corner kind of vibes when you watch him. He is a, maybe a little undersized for what teams are looking for now, but he does have length even at his size, and he is a very willing tackler. He's a cornerback that will come up and he'll stick you in the run game. He's not afraid of anybody. He's strong at the point of attack. He's good in press. Um, might be one of the best press corners in this class. Better in man than zone, because that's what he was asked to do at Illinois. But he is my number one corner in the class. Joey Porter is right there, as is Christian Gonzalez. So it's 1, 2, 3 for me. Um, if it was my team and I was picking in the middle of the first round and I had a choice of all three of them, I'd be ecstatic. But because I think all three of these guys are going to come in and kind of be that instant day one starter that you need. So, but Devin Witherspoon would be my personal pick here if I was the Raiders. I think he's going to be ideal for them. Um, they could also look at the 3-4 ends. Um, somebody like a Brian Breesy, um, uh, Tyree Wilson, if he's still there. There's a lot that you could do here. But for me, like I said, Devin Witherspoon is the play. Uh, although, like I said, I think quarterback is also in play. The quarterback is a position that if you don't have one, you're kind of always in purgatory. So Jimmy Garoppolo is a great guy from all accounts, and he's an okay quarterback when healthy. But you kind of have to swing for the fences if you don't want to keep picking in the top of the first round. So that's what I would do. Would be either take Witherspoon or trade up for the quarterback. But we'll see what happens. But for now, guys, that's going to do it for my breakdown on the offseason for the Raiders so far. Uh, kind of in conclusion, I said the roster right now is in worse shape than it was at the end of the season, but the draft can really help that out. Um, and I think just having another year under McDaniel's system will help them a little bit as well. So for now, guys, that's it. I appreciate every one of you. Feedback is always accepted and looked forward to. But the next team we're going to take a look at is the Falcons. Once we get done with the Falcons, I'm looking for any suggestions on who we should do next. We will get through each and every team before the NFL draft starts. After the draft concludes and rosters get a little more settled, we will revisit each of these teams and start talking about some fantasy outlooks for the season. But for now, thanks for watching, and we'll talk to you soon.